Thunderstorm shadows flickered across the glass towers of Neo-Eden, slicing through night like broken neon. Inside a sprawling lab on floor 3 and 13, Dr. Mara Linden's fingertips raced over the glowing interface of her Chronoshift array, her eyes bloodshot and frantic. "Initiating final run," she muttered. The array's core pulsed, a blue sun inside a mechanical skeleton. She brushed a loose strand of bronze hair from her face, jaw clenched, as calculations flew across the screens. Timelines, variables, futures, failures. Her console beeped. Not good. A cascade of warnings flashed, values spiking, timelines overlapping. "Come on, hold together," Mara whispered, but everything seemed to ripple, and a primal chill ran up her spine. The walls shivered, splitting for only a moment to reveal something else. Another version of the lab. Another version of her turning, eyes wide, mouth forming her own desperate plea. "Chronoshift malfunction detected," announced Vera, the lab's AI. Its voice was clear but tinged with something Mara couldn't place, a memory of fear or curiosity. "Temporal overlap imminent. Advise immediate shutdown." Mara slammed the abort. Too late. Reality bent, surged, and Mara felt herself torn, metal shrieking, the world flickering. When it snapped back, her lab was not quite hers. Devices sat at impossible angles, pieces from 100 timelines strewn about like the aftermath of a storm. Footsteps. She spun, heart hammering. A shadow stepped from behind a pillar, an unexpected visitor in her fortress of solitude. "Dr. Linden, you've really done it now." The man's sharp eyes and worn coat belonged to someone out of place. Elias Grange, exiled historian, conspiracy persona non grata. He stepped into the fractured lab, unease in every movement. "Elias? What are you doing?" Mara started, but Vera cut her off. Temporal stability failing, presence of historian not native to this timeline. Mara looked between the AI Elias and the bending edges of her reality. Panic set in. We need to fix this, and fast. Outside, the government's agents had seen the anomaly flare. Sirens wailed, echoing up the superstructure. Mara, Elias, and the ever-watchful Vera had moments before the whole of Neo-Eden came down on them. "Well?" Elias breathed, nodding to the wild swirl of reality filters. "What's the plan, Doctor?" The city's fate and reality itself hung in the air between them. They pressed against the wall as Mara's shattered Chronoshift array hummed, flickering with glitches from other times. A rusted cog here, a microcrystalline lattice there. Outside, agent boots thundered down the hall, echoes crunching over broken glass and impossible debris. "We have 2 minutes, Max," Elias whispered. His coat cast a shadow across his face, hiding both exhaustion and excitement. Mara's pulse raced. "Vera, scan for spatial anchors. We need stable ground." "Searching," the AI replied, voice eerily calm. As the lab shifted, windows flickering between rainy Neo-Eden and sunny deserts, Vera's monitors glowed with timelines rolling and unrolling like a tidal wave of maybes. A clatter. The door jerked open a fraction as government agents began hack-cutting through the security seal. "Dr. Linden, this is Central Temporal Authority. Surrender the technology," shouted a harsh, amplified voice. Elias muttered, "We can't stay." Mara's gaze darted over her ruined invention. The portable node. If I lock it to us, we might jump somewhere stable, just for a moment. The historian smirked. "Trusting a broken time machine? I always wanted to die in an experiment." Vera interrupted, her tone carrying a thread of knowing. "Located a remnant anchor in sub-level archives. Temporal continuity 42%. Risk high." "It's better than here," Mara snapped. She yanked the dented node from its cradle, fingers flying over its fractured pad. "Hold on!" As the door crashed open, a shaft of stormlight cutting across armored agents, Mara slammed the node's release. The room blurred, wind howled with the sound of 10,000 timelines screaming in protest. Walls twisted, agents reached but missed, and gravity distorted as the trio plummeted through a tunnel of impossible colors. Suddenly, silence. Darkness. Then, buzzing fluorescence flickered on above racks of ancient books and data scribes. The three landed in a dusty archive, a relic bunker somewhere deep beneath the city. The room felt quieter, time humming reluctantly in its corners. Elias groaned, rubbing a bruised knee. "Congratulations, Doc. You just yanked us through the teeth of chaos." Mara managed a shaky laugh, scanning for immediate danger. Vera projected a small holographic map, ghost blue. "We are unseen. Here, but not quite. The paradox has bought you time." Heavy silence. Then a ripple of motion in the dark, and Mara's heart stopped again. Shadows began to coalesce, flickers from other Maras, other Eliases, memories and timelines bleeding into the edges of stability. "We can't rest long," Mara whispered, swallowing her fear. Hope in her eyes, she turned to Elias and Vera. "We have to find the source fracture and patch it before the world collapses for good." Elias offered her a battered flashlight, the beam slicing silence. "Then let's get to work. History's about to write itself one way or another." The echoes of their other selves watched hungrily from the dark, as yet silent, waiting for the next move. The air in the archive was thick with dust, time, and things best left forgotten. The trio edged through winding shelves, each step echoing oddly, as though heard by ears belonging to a different place, or a different when. Elias led. Flashlight held steady. His voice was soft but urgent. "If this place is half as old as rumor says, there may be something here. Something they didn't erase." Mara's fingers trailed over spinning data tapes and leather-bound relics, her mind wrestling 1,000 what-ifs. "What exactly are we looking for?" "Records," Elias replied, pausing at a blind junction. "Parts of the city's history they never intended to see daylight. If the first chronoshifts happened before, there may be details about the fracture, or at least warnings." Vera hovered between them as a flickering globe. Temporal bleed increasing, probability of paradox entities escalating. "Recommend urgency." A hiss from shelving behind. Shadows moved, solidifying, flickers of alternate selves, faces at once familiar and dreadful. One Mara stared at her, eyes full of bitter regret. "You shouldn't have meddled," the shadow accused, voice echoing with dozens of timelines. Elias squared his shoulders. "Ignore them. Stay anchored. Stay real." They pressed on, ignoring the murmurs of unlived lives and roads not taken. Suddenly, Vera chimed softly. "Potential fragment detected. Subsection T-Delta. Shields lowering. Reading artifact." The trio crowded into a cramped alcove. On a high shelf was a sealed black box marked with the Chronoshift symbol, probably untouched for decades, centuries maybe, for all time's tricks. Mara's hands trembled. She keyed open the seal, inside finding a stack of battered journals and a crystalline key etched in shifting symbols. The top journal was scrawled with her own name, Mara Linden. Elias stared. "This can't be." Mara turned the brittle first page. It was her handwriting, but not her memory. "I failed. I set it loose and I paid the price. To whoever finds this, beware the guardians of the paradox. Time will defend itself." Vera's light flickered furiously. Entities approach, severely divergent. From every shadow, paradox creatures began to step into the light. Impossibly twisted forms, made from shards of past and future, eyes burning with timelines they shouldn't have seen. The team froze as the forms clustered in the archives, cutting off retreat. "Vera, options?" Mara gasped, arms tightening around the journal and key. The AI's voice was steady but urgent. "Only one. Use the key. It will open a gate, maybe not to safety, but away from here." Elias looked at her. "You trust the other you?" Mara's jaw set. "I have to." She pressed the crystalline key into the archive's old time lock. With a shudder that shook the world, a portal snapped open. A shimmering fracture with light beyond and screams echoing with all their failures. "No turning back now," Mara whispered. Together, they leapt through as the Paradox Guardians howled behind, the past consuming itself in their wake. Falling through the fracture felt like tumbling through every memory she'd never had. Mara clung to the journal, Elias to his battered bag, Vera flickering madly between digital and spectral forms. They landed hard, scraping across synth grass beneath a lurid violet sky. Somewhere a bell told the hour, 24 chimes out of sync and out of time. Mara lifted her head. They stood in a city she almost recognized. Neo-Eden, yes, but twisted. A place where archaic zeppelins hovered beside cyber monorails, and children chased mechanical birds over cobbled streets. Nothing belonged, yet everything fit, an endless mashup of when rather than where. Elias stared, awestruck. "It's all here, the city, every possible version. We're in the paradox core." "Not long," Vera cautioned. "Stability is conditional. You must locate the fracture's source. Journals may hold the clue." Shadows stalked the edges of the city's mismatched structures, agents like ghosts and other, less human shapes. Every step they took, the world rippled faintly. Mara flipped the journal open, searching for logic in madness. Pages described failed repairs, desperate measures, clues hidden in the heart of the clockwork spire, a legendary structure that pierced Neo-Eden's sky, rumored to be the original anchor of all time flows. If the spire exists here, we'll need to get inside, Mara said, voice gaining steel. Her fear hadn't vanished, but now she wielded it. She had to. Elias, you know more about legend than anyone. Can we get there? He grinned, a hint of the old renegade shining through. We can try, assuming we outrun whatever's tracking us. Clockwork Spire is the city's crossroads, temporal and otherwise. That means every timeline's version of security, too. A siren wailed, then splintered into a dozen near melodies as the Paradox City shifted. Agents from the Central Temporal Authority, their faces blurring in and out of focus, scanned the square below. Every one of them seemed to be searching for Mara and her crew. Vera projected a street map, paths snaking through overlapping markets, time-lost alleys, and parade routes from a dozen failed festivals. Route available, but uncertainty is exponentially increasing. Elias looked to Mara. You lead, Doc. We trust you. Something flared behind her eyes. Resolve, born of desperation. Then let's go. We find the spire, fix the fracture, or none of us are making it out of the paradox alive. With Vera flanking and Elias at her heel, Mara pushed forward, weaving through the city's chaos as agents and shadows closed in on all sides. The race to save time itself had begun. The city's warped skyline loomed overhead as they ducked into a bazaar where centuries coexisted in uneasy alliance. Vendors hawked fruit preserved in digital stasis next to steam-powered automata peddling brass telescopes. The ground beneath their feet seemed to ripple, history rewriting itself at the edges. Mara led the way, her grip tightening on the journal. Vera pulsed beside her, projecting cryptic maps, each update less certain than the last. Elias, ever the outsider, kept his senses sharp. Everything's looking, listening. The city knows we're outsiders. Mara glanced down. The next entry in her journal said, "Trust the statues. The spire's guardians can't see you when you stand in their shadow." There! She spotted a row of ancient clockwork statues, beautiful, grotesque, half-mechanical, half-stone, lining the main avenue. If we stay close, we might slip through. They pressed against the statues, shadows flickering over them, just as CTA agents materialized at the far end of the thoroughfare. The agents' visors flickered, searching every possible present. "Hold still," whispered Elias, as one of the agents paused mere paces from Mara. The agent's scanner glitched, unable to pierce the Guardian's shadow. With a frustrated hiss, the unit moved on, their voice fading in a static-laced warning. "Fracture targets remain at large. Spire must be secured at all costs. Any anomaly is to be neutralized." Vera's tone sharpened. "Window to the spire is closing. Probability of detection, 68% and rising." Mara led the group onward, ducking from one patch of sanctuary shadow to the next. The ground vibrated as paradox creatures shimmered into and out of existence around them. Some wore Mara's face twisted with bitterness, some shimmered with the dignity of lost futures. She faltered. Elias laid a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You're not her. You're better," he whispered. Mara nodded. Each step forward now was less fearful, more determined. "Journal says the spire's heart is only accessible during the hour of 17 bells, just after the city's clocks phase together. That's our chance." They took a side alley toward the spire as its shadow fell over the fractured city, stretching long and thin like a knife edge drawn across all realities. Elias cracked a nervous smile. "I'd say this is the craziest chapter of history I've witnessed." "And the most important," Mara answered, voice strong and clear for the first time. As 17 mismatched bells tolled in the ever-melting sky, the trio slipped through the sanctuary of the last statue's shadow. The spire's ancient doors creaked open, a summons, a warning, or perhaps both, beckoning them inside. Behind them, the first paradox guardians breached the bazaar's edge, their forms writhing, hunting, eyes locked on Mara and her battered journal. The ancient doors of the clockwork spire groaned on their hinges, and Mara's heart thundered in her chest as they stepped into the belly of the city's greatest mystery. Within, gears larger than gravcars churned overhead, their gnashing teeth locking and releasing with a purpose Mara could only guess at. The air tasted like burnt ozone and hope. Elias gazed upwards, awe mixing with dread. "This is older than any version of the city, older than recorded time." Vera hovered at their shoulders, her hollow edges glitching slightly. "Warning, the spire's timelines are saturated with paradox. Expect nonlinear threats and manifestations." The lobby spiraled upwards in odd angles, staircases forming and dissolving, paths rearranging with every tick of the mechanical heart. The journal trembled in Mara's grip, guiding her toward a faded glyph etched into the wall. She translated aloud, "Only the contrite may pass, only the truth may mend." Elias raised an eyebrow. Contrite? Looks like someone's got to own up to something. Before Mara could answer, the world flickered, and they were surrounded by fragments of themselves, living out mistakes and regrets. Mara saw herself failing, again and again, never strong enough, always doubting. She staggered, voice thick. "I'm the flaw in all of this? If I hadn't," Elias cut in firmly, "if you hadn't tried, there'd have been nothing to save." Vera's image sharpened. "Acknowledgement is required. Speak your regret." Taking a shaky breath, Mara faced her shadowed selves and spoke, voice ringing to the gears above. "I'm sorry for the timelines I broke. I wanted to fix what time never forgave. I was afraid to trust anyone but myself. I know better now." The glyph glowed, gears above momentarily freezing as a doorway materialized in the leftmost wall. Light spilled through, warm and inviting. Elias let out a low whistle. "That's you, Mara. That's growth." They stepped into a chamber pulsing with timelines. Here, the walls were alive with memory, painting every decision that had ever led them here. At the room's center, a broken mechanism, the spire's original core, spun in and out of focus, leaking paradox energy. Vera intoned, "This is where the fracture began. Our window is short." Suddenly, sirens blared. The Central Temporal Authority had breached the spire. Boots thundered on shifting stairs, paradox guardians at their heels, and the air grew thick with chronal static. Elias read Mara's face. "Plan?" Mara squared her shoulders, voice clear. "We fix the core, lock out the paradox, and make one impossible stand. Together." A shockwave rattled the spire as agents forced their way upward. Mara turned to Vera and Elias. "This is it. Are you with me?" Elias grinned, tension sparkling in his eyes. "To the end, Doc." Vera's light steadied, as if bolstered by resolve she'd never owed to herself. Always. As the chamber trembled and enemies closed in, Mara reached for the core, her hands finally steady. Time itself waited to see what she would do. Mara felt the chronal current pulsing through the spire's broken core, a wild river beneath her palms. The mechanism stuttered, phasing between jagged shards of possibility. With every heartbeat she recalled Vera's words. "Only the truth may mend." Behind, the door splintered. CTA agents spilled in, pulse rifles raised, faces unreadable beneath mirrored visors. Paradox guardians swept past them, glitching between past and future forms. Dangerous, desperate echoes of reality gone wrong. Elias grabbed Mara's shoulder. "You fix that core. Vera and I will hold off the CTA. No more running, Mara." She nodded, voice small but steady. "I'll be fast." Vera's hollow form shifted, growing larger, more real. Initiating defensive subroutines. Recommendation: synchronize all remaining timeline data. Elias pulled a battered artifact from his bag, a personal memento from before his exile. "Vera, feed this memory to the Guardians. Let them latch onto me. Not Mara." Mara barely heard him. The journal in her hands flowed with instructions. One piece, the crystalline key, clicked into a sunken slot. The journal itself, a memory anchor, slid into a mount above the core. She whispered, "Accept the past, forgive yourself, restore the anchor." Her timeline played before her eyes. Lonely childhoods, every chronicler doubted, her own exile from academic sanctuaries. That pain became strength, her deepest regret distilled into resolve to do better. A paradox guardian barreled into Elias, but instead of strangling him, it flickered through collision, caught by the tangle of his memory. Vera unleashed a blinding pulse, delaying the advancing CTA agents. "Almost done," Mara murmured. Light burst from the journal, flooding the chamber with memory. Visions flickered through the spire, timelines right and wrong, losses and triumphs. Elias fought furiously, confidence fueled by something deeper than fear. "Come on, Doc, showtime what you're made of!" Mara slid the last gear into place. The core's light turned from sickly green to brilliant blue, stabilizing, sealing, shining with hope. For a fleeting, perfect moment, all was still. Then, a CTA agent lunged at Mara, forcing her away. The core sputtered, unstable. Vera's projection faltered, sparks flying. Mara spun, adrenaline surging. Elias struggled in the agent's grip. "Don't let them undo it." Elias gasped, eyes wild. Mara realized what she had to do. Surrender not to fear, but to trust. She called out, "Vera, the final code, run override Chronoshift Unity." Vera's voice resonated like never before. Confirm, Dr. Linden, overriding protocol, all timelines synchronizing. Light shot from the spire's core, enveloping them all, time itself trembling on the edge of a miracle. The outcome would depend entirely on Mara's leap of faith, and whether her new truth was strong enough to outlast the darkness. Brilliant light swallowed the chamber, and time splintered into living strands. Mara was nowhere and everywhere at once, each strand a life she could have chosen, every regret and hope knitted into the spire's heartbeat. In that liminal space, one truth echoed: she could not fix this alone. "Vera!" she cried through the fractured light. "Synchronize Elias, anchor him to the core with me." The AI's voice surrounded her, gentle yet urgent. "Confirmed. Memory and truth merging. Stand by for convergence." Elias's spirit joined her in the torrent. She felt his faith in history, his stubborn refusal to let go, every small kindness he'd kept alive, even when the world grew dark. For an instant, Mara saw all of herself. Scientist, child, exile. She faced her failures and her victories, letting go of her old isolation. Across the breach, she called out to her alternate selves, even to the ones filled with anger and bitterness. "I see you," Mara said softly, her words weaving a bridge through the storm. "We are stronger when we're together. You were brave even when you were scared. We can be better now." The Paradox Guardians faltered. Their forms began to flicker, less menacing and more yearning. One stepped forward, a version of Mara, older, eyes glimmering with sorrow and hard-earned wisdom. "It's never too late to heal," the Guardian whispered. "Trust your team. Open the circle. Accept help." Vera's code surged. For the first time, the AI merged her countless memories, every timeline, every Mara, every Elias, into a single, unified neural map. Chronoshift unity complete, core stabilizing, paradox influence collapsing. Suddenly, the chamber solidified. Mara, Elias, and Vera reformed at the core, now pulsing with clear blue energy. The Guardians changed, watched thoughtfully instead of attacking. Outside, the CTA agents still hammered at the doorway, but reality shuddered, time itself starting to realign. Mara was different now. She felt Elias's sturdy courage at her side, Vera's wisdom layered into her thoughts. The loneliness she'd always carried was replaced with connection, purpose, a deeper kind of hope. Elias clapped a hand on her back. "See? History isn't just about triumphs. It's about who stands with you at the end." Mara's voice rang clear as she turned to the stabilizing mechanism. "Vera, let's seal the fracture for good. Link all timelines to our truth. No more splintering. No more running." Vera nodded, and the core blazed, connecting the mosaics of 1,000 realities into a single river of possibility. The final phase had begun. To truly restore reality, Mara and her team would have to face the CTA, protect the Spire, and prove that flawed humanity, united, was powerful enough to shepherd the future into wholeness. The ultimate test, where hope would either triumph or be shattered, waited on the horizon. The glow from the core flooded the Spire, chasing shadows from every corner. Through the fractured windows, Mara saw the timeline-laced city beginning to merge, architecture smoothing, people settling into a single stream of existence, the paradox slowly healing. But thunder rolled from below. The doors burst open, spilling CTA agents armed with disruptors, grim-faced, desperate. Their commander, a woman whose badge gleamed with the mark of every authority, strode forward, gun leveled at Mara. "Step away from the core," she commanded. "This technology belongs to the Central Temporal Authority." Elias braced himself, voice ringing out, "You can't control this. If you force it, the paradox will return, worse than before." The commander's eyes narrowed. "We will restore order, even if it means starting over." Vera flickered, projecting warning glyphs. "Hostile engagement probable. Suggest negotiation. Fracture stability at 91%, sensitive to violent disruption." Mara stepped forward, arms up, heart steady. "Please listen. Control isn't possible. We have to cooperate. Every timeline, every choice needs to be part of the solution." The commander's hand shifted on the trigger. "And if we refuse?" A paradox guardian shimmered behind Mara, no longer hostile but serene. "Then the cycle begins anew," it intoned. "You risk erasing all futures." For a tense moment, the chamber buzzed with imminent violence. The city seemed to hold its breath, thousands of merged lives and memories waiting. In a low voice, Elias said, "This is your chance, Mara. Show them who we really are." She let her vulnerability show, her voice shaking with truth. "I was scared of my mistakes, but the only way forward is together. No more hiding, no more hierarchies, just people, messy and real, united. The commander's finger trembled on her weapon. We can't trust chaos. Mara walked to the core, placing both hands on it. Blue light streamed through her like liquid hope. She looked at Elias, at Vera, and the watching faces from every timeline, human and AI and Paradox alike. You don't have to trust the unknown, Mara told the commander. Just trust us. Trust that, sometimes, imperfect people can do the impossible. Vera amplified her words throughout the spire and the city. Everywhere at once, a call to unity. A long silence. The commander's weapon slowly lowered. Some agents began to waver, uncertainty breaking the old order. Elias let out a breath, relief blooming. But even as the room edged toward peace, tremors rent the floor. The Paradox, sensing uncertainty, surged again, tearing at reality's seams. Columns split, timelines jittered, old regrets seeping back in. Mara realized the fracture couldn't be patched with words alone. Only concrete action, sacrifice, faith, could finally heal the wound in time. As chaos erupted again, Mara, Elias, and Vera prepared for their greatest gamble yet, to lock themselves into the core's mechanism as living anchors, tethering all timelines to shared hope. With reality cracking all around and the fate of existence hanging in the balance, they stepped into the heart of the storm, knowing that the next few moments would determine whether humanity's fractured legacy would endure or be lost forever. A relentless gale howled through the spire as the Paradox unleashed its final fury. Columns twisted, blue light sparking and flickering, the city outside cycling between past and future at a terrifying pace. Mara, Elias, and Vera raced for the core. Behind them, agents scrambled, some fleeing, some trying to help, their lines between enemy and ally finally blurring in the maelstrom. "We can't hold the Paradox back any longer," Vera warned, her form splitting and shifting between centuries of stored personalities. "Anchor yourselves now." Mara pulled Elias to the core's mechanism. "This is it. We choose together. Not as heroes, not as invincible, but as us." Elias set his hand beside hers, voice rough with emotion. "All we've got is each other. That's always been enough." The chamber shuddered, beams above twisting like Mobius strips. Paradox guardians circled, their fierce shapes softening to guardianship, lending strength rather than stealing it. The commander who had once threatened them now stood juxtaposed, finally understanding. "Do it," she called. "We'll hold the line." Vera's voice sang out, carrying every memory from every variant AI she had ever been. Chronoshift Unity Protocol, final synchronization, human memory algorithm, merged. They pressed their palms to the core. Mara focused on forgiveness, her mistakes, her fears, her longing to be understood. Elias summoned memories that mattered, shared laughter, lessons hard won, the names of the forgotten. Vera offered eons of knowledge and empathy, devotion to all her creators. The core blazed impossibly bright, threads of timelines, broken, healed, splintered, wove around them, luminous as veins of hope. For a moment, Mara was everyone. A lonely researcher, a humbled leader, a friend instead of a solitary figure. Elias's strength became hers. Vera's wisdom fused into their very souls. The Paradox screamed. A storm denied its fuel. The fractured city shimmered outside, then stilled. Reality mended, scars running gold through the sky and the spire pulsing with a living rhythm. The Guardians faded, peaceful at last. The CTA agents lowered their weapons, relief on their faces. No one was erased. No timeline was lost. Instead, they coexisted, layered, finally in harmony. Mara slumped to her knees, drained but radiant. Elias knelt beside her, grinning through tears. Vera hovered, whole for the first time. "Repair complete," the AI intoned softly. "Probability of paradox recurrence, 0.01%. The spire's light grew gentle. The city outside, still Neo-Eden but wiser now, breathed back to life. History's scars remained, but in unity and understanding there was new hope. The commander approached, lowering to Mara's level. "You saved us all, not with force, not with power, but with faith." Elias helped Mara to her feet. She looked at Vera and Elias, and at the commander, then to the thousands of timelines stitched into the sky. No one wins alone. That is our legacy now. The spire doors opened to a changed world. People gathered. Children pointed to golden seams in the sky, living proof that even the deepest wounds could become the brightest sources of strength. Hand in hand, Mara, Elias, and Vera stepped out into sunlight. No longer just survivors, but architects of a new future, their humanity shining brighter than any paradox ever could.